And 3, 2, 1.
All right. Hi, everyone. Great to have you here. This is the Fruition Collective foundational document, and we're just going to take you through it step by step. It is a document that's subject to change every week when we have proposals in our meetings, so just be wary of that. It may not be the same document when you look at this a few weeks down the line. Right, Glo, over to you if you want to start going through the document.
Sure. So let's just look a little bit at the vision. A world where all Game B projects are thriving. A coherent world where we are uniting as one and supporting one another through contributing services, time, and currency, manifesting abundance for all. Aho. Leela, do you want to take us through the mission?
You can go on, Glo.
So the mission, to establish fundraising marketing campaigns to support selected projects coming to fruition. To develop an effective video and outreach campaign production capacity. To create a network of research and development co-living, co-working communities where partner projects can be birthed and connected. Then we have the currencies. Ray, would you like to explain a little bit about the currency?
Sure. The first currency we're looking at is the Primary Council Influence Currency. Influence currency is a protocol.love ontological term. It just has a specific meaning within the context of protocol.love, which is that it is your voice on a group, voice in the collective in terms of making decisions over how to steward assets that the collective stewards. So the amount of primary council influence currency you hold is the strength of your voice within the decision-making process. And we have set it up basically where 6 of us are all equal holders. And we threw the 112 in there for one of us, which makes no difference in the power structure of decision-making, but it avoids the sum total being 666. So we avoided that. That's the only reason the 112 is there. So the current total of influence currency that has been issued is 667 units. And that will apply more when we get to the decision-making section down below. We also define how others, if you're interested in the work we're doing here and you think that you have expertise or passion for this work we're doing, which is named here in the mission, if you have expertise or passion for how to contribute to this mission, we want you to have a path to receiving influence currency. So please feel free to reach out to any one of us who can make a proposal on your behalf. And if that proposal is positively resolved, you will hold influence currency and be part of the decision-making process of this board. Okay, the mission metrics currencies. These are an internal currency flow where we will identify whether we are being successful with our mission or not. The higher the metrics these goes, the more successful we know we're being. It's the number of impressions, shares, views, comments, likes on our content, the average time viewed on videos that we produce, total hours contributed by team members, the net fundraising, and funds raised that are flowing out into projects. These are our core metrics. If these metrics are high, we know we are doing well on our mission. The equity currencies, these are equity currency in the protocol.love ontology is a means of recognizing contribution. It is also a means where that contribution could be represented as a reward for the contribution based on the metric of the equity currency holding someday in the future, but it is not inherently that. All right? So the one contribution that we've identified so far, and there's certainly more that we have to write down, but we didn't feel the need to do it on our first iteration, was just this kind of, it's almost an example that we're building a database of conscious organizations that we might want to support with our fundraising activities. And by putting a record in the database, by contributing to that record and the information on how to contact them, the contributor of that record would receive 1 unit of the COLEC, the conscious organization listing equity currency. That's just one example of a way that somebody may contribute to this collective that they will be recognized for that contribution. The assets, this is the section where we define what does this collective actually steward. If we are just deciding what movie we all want to go see, we don't need a complex decision-making process that with any kind of trackability and transparency or integrity to it. We just say, hey, what do we want to do? When you start getting into ever more valuable assets, that there becomes more and more tension to the decision-making process. So the assets section of the collective foundational document enables us to know exactly what assets we're stewarding. And in this case, we are also negotiating for stewardship of more assets. And actually, that's something that we're going to address on our next meeting, May 7th, so 2020. So that may be a long time ago by the time you're seeing this video. This part may certainly have changed. Down here we have the proposals, which is actually the decision-making processes we use. So there's three phases of decision-making. There's initiation of a proposal, there's an iteration of a proposal, and there's a resolution to the proposal. And kind of the reason that that's been identified is no matter how you go about making decisions, those three fundamental things seem to happen no matter how you do it. So we've come up with an official documentation as to how decisions get made within this collective, and it's pretty straightforward. Proposals are initiated verbally during interactive video calls when at least 60% of the primary council influence currency holdings are present. Okay, and again, if we need to find out, we can look at who primary council influence currency holders are right here. Proposals are iterated the same way. Proposals are iterated verbally during interactive video calls when at least 60% of primary council influence currency holdings are present. Proposals are resolved positively during interactive video calls when at least 70% of primary council influence currency agrees to resolve it positively. And at the time of resolution, the PCIC holders will work together to document on the resolution's ledger how, when, who initiated and iterated the proposal, and what the final proposal was, and what each primary currency influence currency holder's resolution preference was, including any dissenting opinion. So that would actually go on this other document, that is the resolutions ledger. It links right to it and opens up. And you can see there have been no proposals or no resolutions to those proposals yet. This is happening right at the onset. This is the first meeting we've had since the completion of the collective foundational document. Here's where we're really going to find out how we work together as a team and getting through these initial team accountabilities. You can see here that sometimes it's the primary council who is responsible. That's denoted by being in bold. So we're going to complete negotiations for asset contributions. That's what you see happening in this section here. We're going to complete those. That's one of our items to get to as a primary council. We're working on a website. Rob is heading that up, and JJ, Leela, and Glo are participating. There's a Gaia protection campaign with and website map upgrade, video production, and crowdfunding. We see Glo heading up the video production with Rob, Leela, and JJ, and Leela heading up the crowdfunding campaign with myself, JJ, and Glo. Right, and so these are the things we're working on. So that's all documented there. That will definitely be changing by the time you see this document. But one of the goals here of this section is to really, we've created a team now, right? We've decided how we're going to make decisions together. Now we're going to actually do some stuff together and see how that goes. And in this team's example, we've already actually done one little mini successful iteration of creating a video for Earth Day for Leela's organization, Gaia Protection. So we're going to enhance that campaign and really launch it and see what kind of fundraising success we can have at some point. On our next meeting, we're going to really be looking at all the projects we want to support that are on the table to be supported through our efforts, and decide how to prioritize those or how to group them together and what's going to be first, and really get clear on that. That's happening in our Thursday meeting, most likely. Here we have some other operational notes. We agree to use nonviolent, timely, and respectable communication. Should I pass it off at this point? Anybody else want to read this section?
I'll finish that off. So primary council meetings are once per week on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time. Non-primary council holders are present. Present will be witnesses only. So yeah, everyone's invited to those meetings on Thursday, but just as witnesses. If you have proposals, then we will be doing those on the open meetings, which are on team building, client relationship building, once per week on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time.
Noon to 2 p.m. Pacific time.
Noon to 2 p.m. Sorry, yeah, noon to 2 p.m. Pacific time. Bit of a tongue twister.
Yeah, that's the Thursday meetings as well. Noon to 2 p.m.
Right.
Great. And then, so those are just a couple things that we agreed to, and this is a formal agreement in the sense that we did all sign it. You can see that we all put our names here and commented our names, so you can see that our Google account did in fact make that signature, right, or make that comment at least. And we even took a picture of all of ourselves on our Zoom meeting, all our happy faces having completed this process. And so this kind of binds the agreement with all the energy present within me as a living being and in full service and honor to the beauty of life and nature and the wonder of the universe. I pledge to recognize and honor the power that is present by entering into unified agreement with my peers from a place of deep sovereign choice. And we all said those words together and had a little celebration and took a picture of it. So that is an overview of what a collective foundational document looks like. And if anybody is interested in doing this with their preferably startup organization, please feel free to call on the CoGov team, and the representatives on this call are Joel Serino and I, and we can guide you through this process.
Thank you so much, Ray. And also, if you are interested in suggesting any project, or you're working on something that is in alignment with this collective, then feel free to reach out to anyone in the group, and we hope to see you soon.
Okay, so what I'm doing is we just opened the LLC. It's called One Light Ignites. First of all, I want to preface it that everything that we're doing is a bridge. So I'm the bridge that has to bridge the matrix with the new earth, the new paradigm, whichever you want to call it. But I span that whole realm. So I could span from the matrix all the way through the new paradigm, all the way into the blueprints for the new earth. What we're building out right now is I'm building out 2 portals in the matrix. I have a partner that is best apt at working with people beginning their spiritual journey and people beginning their spiritual awakening, where I'm more apt to be working with leaders, priestesses, all the earth guardians, and leading them and helping them rise into everything that they need to do. So we have right now a leadership program, and I'm also facilitating events. And the events have 2 layers. Now I have a full downloaded master plan for the events. So you guys probably know about the collective quantum healing events. It's a vision that's been out there. I have a lead in it. I did it with Global Solutionary Fundraisers. I'm moving into the second loop of it now to try to perfect what we didn't get right last time. And so I hear you when you say, like, I'm fine with priority projects and all that, but I want to try to see if I can get this on the table. Because by the time you guys get to it, we're going to be, because we're already moving, we're trucking. My first online event is, it's not my first.
For one moment, Tiana, I just want to say, like, I love it and it's amazing. I just want to get clear on, like, what is the bigger vision of, like, you're basically holding space for all these, like, people coming through that are building the new earth, and, like, you're holding webinars, and, like, what is the end result of that? Like, where do you want it to go? What is the vision?
It's all about the entire mission is shifting the consciousness of humanity. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, more like, and more specifically, because what I'm feeling is, like, because what is coming through is that, like, we're building the largest network for planetary regeneration, the largest living network for planetary regeneration. So basically being able to bring these pieces in together, what you're doing, and actually unifying them within all of these collectives, within all these networks. This is really the goal, so that we can put these voices out there and
yes, I understand what the goal is, but you have to let that unfold, and you have to hear what the vision is that I'm holding first. And then there's so many different pieces and so many different ways we can play, because everything that I'm doing is going to be creating funding. So when I'm asking you for funding, there's no expectation for a handout. I'm tithing I'll tithe right back to you guys. So I understand the game. I understand what we're playing on the greater whole, and how, like, I just want to say the vision, and then everybody can figure out how it connects together and what pieces fit. I'm down for playing anyway, and I'm down for the divine plan to unfold in our laps. So I don't have an attachment to it. However it rolls, but it's going to benefit everything that I do, what I stand for. You know, some of you guys know me. I'm in for the new earth, and I roll that way. I play in integrity that way, and that's what I want to facilitate in that way. So I'm not here for, I'm here to contribute and create the collective vision. And however that benefits all is how it benefits all. Is that cool?
Right. I just missed somewhere in there, like the one sentence. What is it exactly your mission is for this project, your project? Which
project?
Oh, what? So I missed that there was even multiple projects.
Well, it's the LLC that we're umbrellaing everything under at this point, but we're going to also attach a foundation to it. The LLC the mission is to shift the consciousness of humanity. It's on my phone, which you're on. It's about shifting the consciousness of humanity exponentially at this time. So I do quantum healing. Okay. So this is about, in my mission right now, I need to be out there in the masses, shifting everybody and anybody I can, and bringing people up into the leaderships that they need to bring, because people are ready, and we're moving on quantum levels. I don't know if you guys are experiencing that in your collective, but it's moving. Like, it's so cool. We can scale up really, really, really quick. It's here, it's now. So my job is to just help the leaders that want to, we got to continue to clear out our energy fields and all of the lower vibrational shit that we're carrying. It's unconscious. We got past lives. We got ancestral lines. We have lower vibrational traumas. We have to continue that healing and become one. As we move up into the unity consciousness, things will be quantumly happen. All of the pieces will start to fall into place, and we'll all begin to have telepathy. So it'll be so much easier to work. Unity consciousness will streamline the telepathy. And you guys, this is close now. We're really, really super close to this.
I don't know if it'd be easier if you could read what I think it might be a lot harder on you.
What? It's going to be harder?
I don't think it'd be easier, because if you can read my mind, it would be a lot harder on you than easier. I'm just being funny.
Harder on me?
If you could telepathically read all of JJ's thoughts.
Oh yeah, no. Right. I get it.
Want to go there.
Okay. I get that. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. I don't think we have to like beam everything or read everything, but.
Well, Tayana, you're definitely close in all our hearts, and please come on and continue to clarify the different parts of what you're working on, and we'll all figure out how to do this dance together. This for sure. And if I will, and I'm not going to ramble on anymore. I just want to say the one thing about the second level of events, because I'm intuiting that is when we'll start working together.
it's called Return of the Goddess and their quantum healing events. So JJ, I know you know about this vision. You've worked on it with me before. It's a collective vision. I'm just now finding the tribe for it. But this is the events where I'm working with the Council of Light. I have now clearance as a galactic ground crew for the Council of Light. And they're going to download the light codes for me for these healing events. And so that we have the light codes and the vibrations and the frequencies that have been cut off from the planet to use at these healing events. So this is big, like it's fun and it's huge and it's wonderful. It might not be till next year because there's a sequence of events that need to happen, but those are the ones that are more collective and bigger. Like I can do the events I'm doing now with me and my small crew. But when we get to Return of the Goddess, that's when I need the collective to be on board. And that's the project that I would probably want to put on the books.
Okay, what should we call it?
Return of the Goddess film.
Return of the Goddess Quantum Healing Events.
Goddess Quantum Healing
Film.
What did you say, Glo?
I said, or we make a film.
Right. Right. But I'm just saying, even what if we'd make a film for Goddess Quantum Healing Events.
Mm-hmm.
It was Return of the Goddess Quantum Healing Event.
Oh, Return of Goddess Quantum Healing Events. Got it.
Fiona, have you met Unity Grace?
I know you. I haven't met her in person. I've watched her stuff. I've watched her channelings before.
There's a new one. I'm just thinking like everything that you're saying is so aligned with what she's bringing through, and it's like complete like quantum expansion consciousness healing. She just created this new like Into the Deep, like it's like an intro one, and it's like so expensive. Rob was there too on the other call, but I would definitely suggest like bringing that in. And I love, thank you for being such like an amazing, beautiful mirror that you're like bringing forth this energy and like putting this like to the front of the important, because I feel the same way about like what I'm holding and like just like this like all this energy that like, you know, we are bringing through. So thank you for being that mirror.
You're welcome. I was so excited. I was like, I'm going to get on this call and share with them what I've been working on because I didn't work with them. And so the whole thing is that also, like, I'm not just here to put it's about my projects. When I play. And so I need to know everything that you guys need so that when I'm working with all these people that are coming through the leadership programs and all these people we're teaching about New Paradigm want to play, where they can be of service. Like, what do we need in this collective to make this thing run? And right. Also, like, you know, I know that I'll just keep in touch with you guys. Like, I'm working with three different collectives. So, one is the priestesses, because I'm a priestess. So we've got the priestesses covered, and they are also covering the temples around the planet. They're rolling out that blueprint. It's happening. And the Earth Guardians, and then people that are new, that are just waking. Professional leaders too. So,
well, from my perspective, I would love to see all these three collectives get vulnerably transparent with their stuff through a collective foundational document. So let me know if you ever want that, you know. And me or Joel, we're actually building a team of lots of people, so it won't just be me and it won't just be Joel. It's going to be a lot of people who can actually do that consultation going forward. So.
Okay. Well, I know how to make the way I'm doing, because I'm doing the master plan for the business. Now, it doesn't look exactly like your foundational document. Right. So maybe at some point we can collaborate. I'm super confident. I channel it in, so it's not like
totally. Just let us know. It's a gifted service. We're glad to offer it as a gift.
Okay.
So just let us know if that's something you want to take us up on. And also what I heard in there was that you might want to be helping with the fundraising campaigns we're going to be doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's great.
Yes, I can do events for the fundraising. Like,
Okay, cool.
that's what these events are. I mean, we're doing it by donation only, but if it turns out, like, I follow guidance. So if it turns out that's what everybody wants, I'm down.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you missed you feel you kind of missed out on joining the core, but you can always work through proposals. You can get back in there to have the same amount of voice that we have, so you can be a part of the team just the same. Right.
yeah, if that's a path you want to be on, just voice that path, and then one of us can make a proposal and discuss it, and you can be present while we discuss it even.
No, I really trust you guys. I mean, I've got a lot on my plate to have to like lead. So
Cool. Perfect.
I trust what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and that's what I love. You know what I mean? Where there's not, I know we're doing a good job when there's not a desire just to be on the board for the sake of prestige or something, because it's not. It's actually just a paperwork pushing job. That's all it is. We are the paperwork pushers that, so that's game B. So yes, thank you, Tiana. Please come play however you want to play. And if being a paper pusher is not one of the roles, I honor that.
Okay.
Hey, I got to switch gears real quick because I remembered part of what I wanted to say back when Glow was talking. Anyway, she said something about having. I don't know exactly what it was she said, but what I would like everybody to think about is how we can open up this membrane more effectively, how we can bring in people to co-create with us, into these Tuesday calls, because that really, I think it depends. I mean, we can do this on our own, but it's also, pretty dependent on how broad we can open up the membrane and get more people participating.
Right. Well, I think we're going to do that that's what we're going to talk about on Thursday. Is the fundraiser, is it for Gaia Protection? Is it for the Fruition Collective? Is it for both? Is it for, that's all the kind of things we're going to talk about. But I think that actually promoting what the Fruition Collective is doing with the work output of the Fruition Collective is a brilliant strategy as well.
Mm-hmm. Basically, when we were doing the Karma Tribe funding, campaign for the next level, which was to build the app for the projects and the user interface to connect people to the projects, we had so many volunteers, everyone that was working on the campaign. We had one person that was PR, one person was that. So if we have a short call and be like, okay, these are the roles, and bring more people in that want to help with the crowdfunding campaign, then I feel like that would be a good next step.
Yeah, I think that's on there under the project lifecycle discussion.
And another thing to consider, I'm thinking that maybe we might want to reconsider the structure that we've created on these two calls, and maybe we should have both calls be official, because, well, I don't know. I'm just thinking, I don't know if that'll work, but
if we have 60% of PCIC present, which we do, then it's technically,
that's true.
It makes it a proposal, right? But it's just the intent we're putting out publicly is that this is for anybody to come in and have a voice, whereas the Thursdays we're asking them to be muted. Anybody who's not a current influence currency holder. That's the only difference.
Okay.
So if you want to make an official proposal, do it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I know I'm supposed to be quiet on Thursdays, but today is Tuesday. But I thought I'd bring this up. So this morning I had a call with a new collective that is currently organizing and forming our collective foundational document process. We're still in conversation. We just came together a little over a week ago. We represent 50 or 60 different organizations that are all interconnected. our central focus is on bringing the message of our elders from essentially the 13 tribes, all of the tribes of the earth, and the different lineage holders and wisdom holders from each part of the world, and bringing their message, bringing their wisdom, whether it's in the Vedic calendar, Ayurveda, the Mayan calendar, the Maori calendar, whatever their wisdom is helping them tell their story, helping each portion of this earth that has a long lineage, going back some 80,000 years, as far as I think the Maori have been able to map it. And we work with all of these different organizations. And this last 2 weeks, there was just this quick dream a couple people had. And the next day they called each other. And when they confirmed that what the dream was meant to do was go to the next step. And we created an event. It was a 2-day event, 24-hour event, essentially. We invited about 13 elders, 3 of the 13 grandmothers, several Mayan lineage holders, as well as from the Amazon, New Zealand, Aboriginal, and Maori, and Linda Tucker from South Africa with the White Lions. And so what we decided to do is create a Zoom event where we could have council, in this virtual world, where a lot of us have held council before on the land. We've held ceremony together. A lot of us travel to sacred sites. There's a lot of video content that we have trailed along the last couple of years in doing this work. And there's a couple of, film, more like filmmakers, but also really good with video, that also have a lot of content. And this video alone produced, I think, about somewhere between 15 to 17 hours of total video time. And to give a little bit of context, is that these, and I'll try to keep it to that 2 minutes, each one of these are some sort of elder in an entire part of the world. And it's not every day that they're on a Zoom call, essentially, because they're busy, right? They're elders. They're either ceremony or in prayer or working on their many, many projects or saving the world. So this type of opportunity, we started to talk about putting this out there. And what we saw over the weekend is how many people responded, how quickly, how much money we were able to raise, and had no idea how we were going to do everything, but it all came together really quickly and seamlessly. And so now the group has formally said, yes, let's make a collective out of this and let's keep doing this. This vision of this heart community is what it's called. Heart.community is the website. This process of uncovering kind of sacred sites, sacred wisdom, sacred elders, in some of these sacred spots where these communities have been building and working on really important projects that a lot of these other communities that are growing up or learning how to begin are looking for this sort of wisdom. And the first thing we thought of this morning was, how do we take all of this video, cut it each section into its own council, and then be able to produce a series around that. So, and then continuing that work with each one of these elders and all of the different projects, and tying in the fundraising effort in creating a platform out of that and moving that into some of our communities and the villages that we're either building or a part of already. And so then we started talking about who's going to do what. We're not really a video team, although we have some video people. We're not really fundraisers, although we know how to raise money, and a lot of us do it at the kind of the bigger scale. And we know how to build stuff, websites and apps and user experience. And it just became apparent that what this team was really good at was, of course, coordinating with 13 elders in different time zones, and just having this opportunity was a lot of work. Now how to go into the production mode to create a tangible asset that this collective can then move and stream throughout, so they can connect with some of this wisdom, as well as the projects that these elders are connected to, which I'm sure, because I've already heard some, that we're all connected to these same things. And so this just seems like, oh, well, like me listening last week and today, it's like, well, we don't really want to do it because that's what you guys are doing. And so that's what we'll be talking about tonight. There's a few projects that are interconnected, and yours is one of them, about how to prepare. And we're going to go through our CFD so we can have that to present and ask you guys, like, are you guys interested in partnering and helping these types of things kind of come to fruition in the world? And so that's the heart community pitch. I thought I'd take a practice. Probably made 4 minutes there. So
I totally resonate.
Are you connected to the Wisdom Weavers?
yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow. So did you guys see me talking at the beginning of this call? I'm super sorry for that. I was with Violet on a call. I bet you know Violet from the Wisdom Weavers and Joe.
I don't know her.
So we were just talking about doing a movie in 2 weeks where we're going into another community here in Costa Rica. And like after this call, I want to talk with an indigenous leader to think about like bringing more like the story of wisdom weavers, like kind of like unfolding it a little bit from the Costa Rican perspective. So it's pretty crazy that now you were sharing this, because I was just talking with Violet about this and what's going on here in Costa Rica. So yeah, full support for everything that you're doing, and I would be super happy to see how we can support you guys and how we can co-create and collaborate.
Yeah, totally, Joel. I mean, one of my dreams was to go and work with Linda Tucker and to make a film on the white lions and any other animal communicator that would do that. So I would be very happy to collaborate, co-create around that, and to talk further about it as soon as possible. Sounds extremely exciting and beautiful. Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
you just might have to go there.
You are not going without me, Rob.
Well, I know that we can arrange a trip.
You were so right as well, Tiana. Right at the moment, the quantum leaps are just appearing. Sort of the synchronicities, everything every day. It's insane. So yeah, this is the time. If everyone's good, my friend Paul has a little pitch as well. For if we've got time, have we still got time? What time is it? Yeah, we've got time. Everyone, is everyone good with that?
I just wanted to mention one thing, like along with the Wisdom Weavers and that film that you're talking about, Leela. I mean, I would love to just transform, what we're creating with the documentary Water is Life, and bring in all this wisdom from ancient and indigenous people. Like, I want to have their voices talk about the connection with nature and the importance of keeping our water clean.
Oh, on that note, yeah, as well. So the hard drive with all of the footage with lots, well, not all 60, but many indigenous tribes, some of which I'm sure are talking about that along with the rest of nature, is now the hard drives with Gabby. So she's putting all of the footage on there, and it will be sent to me in the next couple of weeks. So all of that stuff is coming back to be able to work on again after a couple of years away from getting lost from it. So that's another thing that's coming back around.
Amazing.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, we'll add that. I mean, let's add that in as quickly as possible. I reckon that's so. I think everyone's in a great amount of resonance with that.
Hey, Joel. Sorry to interrupt you there, Rob. But Joel, I just wanted to let you know that I went to Heart Community when you mentioned it, and McAfee came up. Very risky. So I didn't accept the risk. I don't know.
Thanks for that, DJ. I'll check out the security certificate. I don't know why it's showing that, but thank you.
Came up fine for me. I've been noticing that lately, where I think the root certificate providers are going down for moments, and it's not validating certificates. But anyway, it came up for me. Of course I am in not secure if I do HTTPS. Oh no, I am.
Yeah, I went ahead and bypassed it, and it does say not secure.
Didn't even ask me. Interesting. All right. Yeah, so the certificate isn't working. That's confirmed, Joel.
Nice catch. That must be new because it was working until today.
And while we're on the subject of websites, I have failed to get on there, but I'm going to be dedicated some time. I've tried 3 times. The first time I couldn't, I didn't have authorization. The second time the website wouldn't come in, and then the third time I had a terrible connection. So the universe didn't want me to work on the website, but yet. But I will be soon.
Sure. Yeah, it's up and running again. I don't know why it was down, but it's fine again now. Cool. Everyone ready to hear Paul? His pitch?
Yep.
All right, cool.
All right, great. Hi, everyone. So for the last year or so, I've been studying language pretty intently, and I've come across a teacher by the name of David-Miller, and he cracked the language code, recognizing that all language is a linear equation of algebra. So what this basically means, what he discovered, was that 90% of the English language basically has been modified to mean nothing and say nothing, which what we're finding in our reality is that all of our words are spelled. Yeah, they're spelt with spelling, and it literally means that they're spells. And what's happened is that our language has been added to, so the root words of what the core context of what these labels mean have been modified. So basically we have an awful amount of poison prefixes and suffixes which modify the language to basically mean nothing and say nothing. So when I say, for example, something like inquire, an in at the beginning of choir, inquire, in means no, always has meant no, always will mean no. So invalid, if I said something was valid, then it would be valid. If I said it was invalid, it would be not valid. So same as competent, incompetent, inquire, independent. So what we're finding is that basically our entire language, laws, contracts, everything that's been written, pretty much everything that we're saying is in negation. So this is like a huge revelation, revelation even meaning no, lation. So basically what I'm sort of starting to get to the bottom of is how to bring all this information together to present to people so that we can begin to merge the conscious and subconscious mind, because what is happening is that we have a cognitive dissonance, so we're probably aware of this term. What happens is that the subconscious mind knows the truth, right? It knows everything. It's one with consciousness. It knows all our experiences. It knows all language. It knows everything of everything. The problem is that the conscious mind, it kind of takes hold, and the conscious mind believes it knows what it's seeing and saying. But actually, the reality is we've got this truth and a lie, kind of like opposing each other. So this is like a really huge aspect of freeing up our mental like capacity, because we're in a cognitive dissonance with the language that we're seeing and speaking and the truth of what we actually want to say. So there's this teacher that I mentioned earlier, he's worked out this linear math of equation, being that there's a way to write facts like using prepositional phrases, and with this we can write true contracts. We can claim to be true live men and women on the planet. At the moment, of course, if you're aware or not, that we're like all considered dead, lost at sea, delinquent or underage under the Sescavie Trust Act. So this is relating to the entire population. So when Tiana was saying things like we want, to bring in telepathy and things, like the only way we can really bring in that state of consciousness onto the planet is to become conscious of the words that we're using and become conscious of the fiction that we've been played with. So this is in a nutshell what I want to share with you. I've been, like I say, I've been studying this for some time. I'm currently studying with a federal postal judge from Australia, which I'm looking to continue studying with. Are there any initial questions off the back of that? Go on, Leila.
Would you be interested in getting on a Zoom call with us and kind of like reading the wording of Gaia protection so that it's actually something that really resonates with like that subconscious mind when we really like attract the right people, you know? So is that something that you might have time and the willingness to do so?
Absolutely, completely, Lily. Just even off the back of that, so the protection, pro is a word-forming element forward towards the front, before, for, in exchange for. So the pro in itself is it's a poison prefix. So when we start to understand the language that we're using, we're saying nothing in it. And when we can actually learn to state fact, true fact, it's a game changer. You know, it really is something on a level that none of us are probably fully comprehending. I'm still working through this myself as to fully understand it. There's different elements to the language. There's the passe, which is what I'm talking about now. It's this, the how words come together or how words are formed. So the passe can be easily understood by the syllables. So protection, the pro is the poison prefix, the tech is the tection, right, is coming together, and the ION, the tection, protection, the ION is the contract word. So it's very mental to begin with, but if we can even bring out like if we can start to share even on the passe of how the words have been manipulated. Like this is massive, because all of the laws, for example, that they're trying with the COVID-19 and these sort of things, like if we know as a society, if we know individually as people, we know that there's a lie going on in front of us, that the law that has been written is not worth the paper that it is written on, then we can really start to change things, you know. So I'm really excited to continue studying this language, and I'm looking for funding to continue my studies and to present this to the world, whether it be through video content or I have a website that I have with a friend of mine that we are looking to start populating pretty soon. So yeah, this is like the spelling is it crosses the world over, and if we can undo
they've done
this,
it with all the pretty much all of the
all
modern languages
even
are bastardized.
I'll share even in Sanskrit. It came to me a few years ago when I was studying the yoga teacher training back in 2016. My teacher was telling us that in Sanskrit we were studying the Advaita Vedanta. Beautiful. And Advaita Vedanta is it's the non-dual teachings. Now, non-dual, officially the Advaita in Sanskrit means not two. Vaita means two. So the Advaita, the vowel in front of the word, it negates the word. So for example, if I said okay or awake, a one syllable vowel at the beginning of a word negates the word. So when I say you're awake, I'm saying you're not awake. When I say you're alive, it's saying that you're not alive. Do you see how manipulated the language is? Again, if you want to say something again, it means no gain, again, idea, no dear. You know, it's like the entire language, bar 700 words in the English language, has been modified. So I think it's really important that we get this message out to people.
The other thing to mention here is that if we can get to a decent enough understanding of this and how to make our own contracts, then we can, it's decoupling from the state. We don't have to have anything to do with their legalities and all of that and the legalese that they've created, because it's, what would you say, like empire within empire, like it's our, you know, we're using their own game essentially against them. And being aware, like actually living in factual terms, not fictional terms, because that's what they've done. They've everything we're living in right now is a fictional reality, and we're as culpable as, like, what's the word? Complicit in the game, because we don't.
We're ignorant
to what's really going. Yeah, to how the language is used. So that's how they manufacture our consent, and everything on top of that is how this is all orchestrated.
Speaking from my own perspective, what you guys are just talking about right there is the way to go with bringing this to people's attention. Again, this is just my opinion, my perspective, because when you speak in general terms, like you were talking about at first, to me it seems like almost a helpless cause. But when you start pinpointing it to the sovereignty, you know, to things like the maritime law and the capital letters and all that stuff, which is connected. That's where I think you get my attention, and that's where I think you'll get most other people's attention as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's on many different levels, you know, like I think naturally as we go through our waking up process, like there's different aspects of the reality that resonate with us, that wake us up, and the same with the language, you know, like it may be particularly about the law, it may be about writing contracts, you know, as a Fruition Collective, maybe you want to write contracts, you know, you want to make sure those contracts are right. If you write a contract and then a few years down the line we start rolling out this factual language, then it's a real issue, you know, like
I don't know I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't know what the word contract means. But to me, I don't like that word. I never have, because I've been in sales, and so I was taught to not use that word. That's a red flag word. You say agreement instead of contract.
Well, agreement is AG, was it
AGR says.
AGR, so like a vowel and two consonants at the beginning of a word negates the word. The contract itself is
with traction.
It's actually one of the few sound words, a contract. And what we begin to understand is that everything that we are doing in the world is with contracts. When you get on a bus, you're forming a contract. When you're having a conversation with someone, in a way, you're forming contracts. So we have to get real and present about, like, the state of affairs that we're in, and the ignorance that we've been told. We've all been taught a second grade reading level, and I can assure you, from a year or so of studying this language, it's showing massively in my states of consciousness. I'm able to see things in movies now which I wasn't able to see a year or so ago. The fiction pops out now so much more clearly, because when I'm looking at the words on a page, I can see how much of it means nothing, and I'm beginning to be able to write actual factual statements, which is part of what I'm studying. So, you know, to be able to make a affirmation, which is another poison word, if we're able to make statements which are factual to the universe, like, it's a game changer, you know. So yeah,
I just want to get something out real quick. Sorry, you just reminded me of something. If I don't get it out, I'll forget. But I want to encourage everybody to go watch Tomorrowland again. Brett had mentioned something about Tomorrowland, and so I went and watched it last night. And yeah, just go watch it. It's the reason you reminded me is because I just rewatched it, and I got a lot more out of it than I did the first time I watched it.
Sure. Yeah, and another thing, obviously, we know, I'll just add one last thing to the end of this, is that the time we're in right now, like, it is a planetary attempted takeover, and it's not going to happen. But if we want to make it as easy on ourselves as possible, we don't have to wake everyone up to use this language. Just the ones of us who are already aware that when we're creating our contracts, we can do it using this, and it will help protect us from any unwanted interference and nefarious shit from governments and so on, because they're on a mission right now. So anything we can do to protect ourselves, I think in this moment, is a very important measure to take.
Well, I think it not only that, but it gives us strength in manifestation and you know what we're actually manifesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, the pen is mightier than the sword, and when we can put pen to paper, and this is the issue that we have as a society, is that we've forgotten how to write letters. We've forgotten how to actually truly state our meaning, who we are on this land, not on sea, not on some corporation, not part of some, you know, thing that we didn't consent to. You know, when we stand up and we say, I do not consent. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I live on the land, I live lawfully, you know, under these conditions. I think it's, it's a game changer.
So this is a bit of a facetious question, and it's not to discredit what you're doing, but if we were to come out and make make an official statement such as that, I do not consent, wouldn't that pretty much cover all the verbiage that we're using that's not proper, if we declared that we didn't consent?
To a degree, that is, you know, knowing these things are the basics, you know, like they need our consent for anything. However, they kind of already have got our consent in a sense. We've been signed up to this shit, and you know, the more I'm researching this thing, like it turns out, for example, most of the countries that we are told that we're living on, the true identity of those countries are 200 meters outside the land, and for the seas around those lands. So, you know, the United Kingdom is a no citizen kingdom. England is a no land. Factually on paper at the moment, we're in no man's land, quite literally. So it's a coming together of getting the basics of information. Not everyone needs to know the parsing and the syntax. You know, progressively, I think this will be something that will get rolled out across schools eventually. Like, we want our children to be able to be captains of their vessel, basically, and be competent
Are you curious? I'm curious. Do you know Anna von Reitz?
I've heard of her, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you should. She's not about language, but she's very much about law. You know, admiral, maritime law and stuff. You should look into her. And also, what was the other one I was gonna? I'll forget. If I remember, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, pass it over to you, remember?
Yeah, I'd love to connect you with someone I know.
Judge Gary Darby. Have you ever heard of Judge Gary Darby?
No, I haven't. No.
Check him out too. Sorry, Joel. Go ahead.
No, I'm a huge fan. I know what you're talking about. And one of the things that you just mentioned about law is, like, the first place this can be applied is the law. You know, in the contract assignment, when it comes to building a new community, when it comes to being inside of a certain boundary limitation where a group of people have decided what their sovereignty and what their laws are going to be according to universal law. There is someone here in the States that has some pieces of paper that are essentially the source code of the law, which are written in this language.
Yeah.
It's a very different language.
Yeah, they call them key masters,
key holders.
Key holders.
Yeah.
So
and there's a group here in Las Vegas in the States that are currently in a working group having circles going through these documents and learning how to encode that into things like protocol.love as we're building a new community, that these agreements are no longer agreements. These are literally like contracts that we're just, like, remembering and how to exchange with one another. And then that process helps everybody understand the bigger questions. Well, I couldn't do this before because I couldn't dictate how to get through the law. That's what it always comes down to.
Yeah. Do you have like the website you said? Is it protocol.love? Or how to get a hold of these groups that are doing that?
You would have to contact me personally about that.
Okay.
Protocol.love is Ray's site.
What we're doing with protocol.love is interconnecting with this legal source code, so that when we work with other groups like the Regenerative Development Council, or we've got an interconnected community here that's building all these projects and land and all this stuff, that we have the legal resources to plug into the currency, to plug into the impact statements, so that when people become promisors, that they understand the universal law structure of their promise, right, of their contract.
Okay.
And what that means. And that's important for us to understand and then decode into language, so that typical investors who have lots of property are like, well, it's worth $3.5 million. Why don't you just give me a check? This is a way for us to translate in a new way the legality of using that piece of land for a certain period of time within a currency structure that everybody wins. Without that law, what we were finding out, and what a lot of communities find out, is that the language is not there. The precedents have been built on top of the source code of the law in every city, state, county, municipality, and federal government in this country and others. And what that precedence does is it just adds all these layers of agreements and contracts, and it essentially the source code is unknown. Because all of these words mean nothing when it comes to the contracts that are actually at play on the land that we're on. And a lot of the native tribes know how this works, and that's why a lot of the great-grandfathers who were present at the writing of these treaties and these peace agreements were the ones that were fighting for the language to be used in its simplest form. You know, they were very short documents to begin with. And they, of course, lawyers came in from the Americas and the colonialists and created all of this, you know, additional structure that was confusing. It's kind of an easy path hearing you talk about like this library and this way of teaching people how to communicate really will help communities dig in and become more regenerative and sustainable, because they're now living honestly within the universal law of creation that they all have made contracts with in that moment.
Yeah, and again, that will help with the manifestation, because it's a direct line to the universal code, the source code, rather than playing in a land of fiction where everything's distorted. And so nothing really truly works.
It's discombobulated. And this language is pure. It can be read frontwards and backwards and means the same thing. It's quantum language. It's pure as math itself, you know. So you know, when you see something like the vortex-based mathematics, or some of these things that you can just tell that is the touch of God in there. Like there's something very special about the English language and how it flows and the mathematics behind it. And the more people that we can get up to speed with this, it's great to hear the indigenous or the original tribes of the land, keepers. You know, the wisdom keepers, that they're on this. And actually the teacher that I've been studying with, I know he's been in a very predominant in Hawaii and in bringing them sovereignty, as well as the Aborigines in Australia and the Maoris in New Zealand. And so I know that he was working.
Tibetans in the Himalayas have been working on retranslating all of their source documents.
Absolutely,
in English, because of all of their communities around the world that are using English as a base language have been disconnected from the source. And so they're going through this huge project too to kind of adjudicate all of the additional fluff that's been put into it.
Missing words, the missing content that was lost, you know, in those documents, you know. Yeah, great to hear.
So fascinating.
Well, yeah, I mean, that went down really well. So I'm glad, I think the answer to your question, Leela, is definitely, we're well on that. Because, you know, if we can start doing it with our own websites, first and foremost, then it's birthing it and it's making it happen. So, you know, making the words correct on our websites is the first step, really. And then with the contracts, we can go back through in, you know, one of our Thursday meetings, go back through the foundational document, or have those of us who know enough of it to just amend the words and then check
Okay.
back in.
Paul,
Yeah, sorry.
you can build our website.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Yeah, it's crazy. Do you guys know Mattia De Stefano, perhaps?
Not familiar myself.
Who?
I don't-
What's it? Who? What's the name?
Mattia De Stefano. He's from Argentina, but he got pretty popular because he was like 10 years old and started to remember his past lives and like all his life. And if you guys want, I can give you my login data for Gaia.com, this like Netflix for consciousness. It blows my mind. It's like everything we're talking about, like with the restructuring of the frequencies of the words that we express, of the spelling of everything. He's basically like explaining the different dimensions and going through vibration and syntonity and like all these things. So if you guys want, I can give you my logins to watch
Fantastic.
I
Yeah.
just watched-
Thank you.
Yeah.
that. Just reach out to me when you want it.
So incredible. I just watched this one, like maybe 2 episodes last week of this guy, and he is just super incredible.
This Matthias guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I look forward to it. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lila.
Thank you.
He isn't the one that that recalled his murder scene, is he? Like he actually went back to his murder scene and they found evidence that supported that corroborated with.
I'm not sure. Not that I know. Maybe? I don't know.
Wow. That sounds super interesting too.
Yeah, it's really, really crazy.
All right. Is there anyone else who wants to add something to our wonderful mix of projects emerging?
I did add one to the list that we can discuss on Thursday. Text I added to the list. It's a friend of mine. She has a project called Purple Paradise Resort. It's pretty much just a more kind of an amusement park type situation, but consciously awakened. It's a regenerative amusement park. She lives in Belize right now, and she wants to do it in Belize, but she's hoping for funding soon. She's counting on this global currency reset, and somebody's going to fund her for this big project. But so I added it. It'll be probably towards the bottom of the list.
Has there been any more news on that, on the GCR? Because it's sort of like sounded like it was all going ahead, and then it's done the same thing and like just gone quiet.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like today is supposed to be a back wall, but there's been so many back walls that I don't really pay attention to that word. But yeah, it's happening. It's just a matter of when. There's really no choice right now. Really, I don't see any other choice right now. It has to happen, and that brings up something else too. That we all need to keep in mind, and that is that when I'm not even going to say if, but I'm going to say when it does happen, and we have this funding available, it's going to really shift our focus, because then we're not going to be concerned about raising funds for these projects. We'll have the funds available, so we'll have to really shift our focus on how best to go about promoting and marketing and bringing all this stuff out to the world. That will be more of our focus, as opposed to actually raising funds.
Yeah.
If we want to, it would be beneficial, like you said, to bring other projects. I mean, I would love to have your guys' support. Like Rob is obviously very helpful, and basically just right now I'm going through the steps of this documentary of actually bringing it back to I want to be able to bring it back into the heart, but make kind of express that in a way that's consumable for people, and then also the interconnection with humans and nature. So being able to get clear on these things and actually make it consumable is what I'm finding the challenge with right now. And also just like the funding part, we all need, well, not all of us need funding, but it would be amazing to be able to shift into that space of being able to fund other projects, not have to always focus on, funding myself. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely resonate with that.
I'm all in if it's about water.
Yeah, it's water is life. This is my number. Yeah, so. Yeah, I was also going to ask you, Joel, like, if you have any ideas on that, or if like I'm working on writing part of the storyboard. If you are, I don't know. I'm sure that you're an amazing speaker, so I'm assuming that I don't want to assume things, but I'm assuming that you're good at writing too. If you have any thoughts or ideas, if I can send you some text, or if we can look at it, then that would be amazing. And also I was just thinking about your ideas on basically shifting the narrative. So what I see is like us like creating these news pieces, right? So basically creating the new like CNN, but the GNN. So of like what things would you want to see in the news, in our new news? What are the headlines? What are the headlines that we can create now that we are creating for the future? So I love the headline of like, we just planted 1 million fruit trees in Africa, or, like, what are the headlines?
Using regenerative bamboo and just.
Yeah, like also love the term of like, we are building the largest living network for planetary regeneration. So maybe like having the numbers on the platform or whatever, like of like how many people are joining, how many trees we planted, all these different things.
Oh,
less of the regeneration and more of the generation, but yeah, sure.
Anybody ever get the feeling like this time we're in now is sort of like in a huge factory where they're building cars, and we know there's like 1 million parts everywhere, and we like show up and we're a part, and we're like, oh, look at our little part, and look at our little thing, and like, oh, look, there's another thing and another thing. I have no idea how this either works. Then someone turns the lights on and the car is made. Like everything is there. It's all hooked in. The economy is like, we're all extremely wealthy and prosperous, and now we just have to figure out how to share it. It's like, how do we get in this thing and drive it around and show people, put them in the front seat, let them drive it around. That's how it has felt to me. It's like, it's all just we're going to wake up one day, the lights are going to be out for a little while, and then they come back on and boop.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
getting our synergy buses, the touring synergy buses, with some sort of along the lines of Live Aid, but obviously not concerts, and regenerative film where it's participatory. So all of these all of the people who've got in touch with their passions, the ones who are the builders, the design, can show all of the kids. The kids are already like gonna be showing the adults, the ones coming through at this point. Yeah, definitely I resonate with that, dude. It's gonna be not long. I keep hearing 4 years is this huge transition time that we're in right now, and then just building of it, building it out everywhere is what will be going on. But yeah, 4 years to sort of clear the road, so to speak, and get rid of the nefarious stuff, and get our contracts and everything sorted back to the source code. And then,
I sure hope it doesn't take that long.
Well, it could be quicker. Let's call it in quicker if you want. A year, 6 months, tomorrow.
Yeah. Now.
Start working double, triple, quadruple time. Change that quantum entanglement of time and space. And
right.
Hey, Joel, I just wanted to say that as you were speaking about your project there with the wisdom that came together so synchronistically and so quickly and so sounds perfectly almost, I was really feeling a lot of resonation with that, and I don't know how we can go about this, but I'm looking forward to Thursday's call so that we can kind of start focusing more on exactly what we're going to do with this first project. And I really would like to see how we can. I know I've mentioned this a little bit already, but I want to see. My preference would be to see Gaia protection as the main focus of the first campaign, but we can also include a little bit about what you're doing and a little bit about dragonfly pictures, because obviously that's going to be the main production of it. So we can spend a little bit of time on dragonfly pictures and a little bit of time on what you're doing, and the main focus maybe, this is just my thinking out loud, and then the main focus be on Gaia protection.
Yeah, I mean, my goal would be, JJ, is to position what you guys do as the capacity to do what we're doing, and passing that on to a lot of these elders projects. Like one of these guys, for real, he's in charge of all the Amazon tribes, essentially. He's the one organizing the 9 different regions all throughout the Amazon basin, and is organizing everything from economy to structure, communications, disaster recovery, like putting these Amazon tribes back on the map and using their resources to map how many resources that tribe has in their collective based on the land they live on, the trades and goods they provide. And so these types of projects could also, they're all asking, I'll just put it that way. Like all these people we talk to, they're like, oh, if we could only get this video made and push it up. Oh, if we only had a documentary, the people would really open. Man, if we could just show people what just went on this weekend. We have all the video, but filmmakers and documentary makers and video production studios in the past have been hard to come by. And the studio time and the development time for doing production work is tough. Like I'm sitting in a studio right now. I'm not doing any studio work because it's so time consuming. Mm-hmm. So I want to learn how to value that as an offering and package it up as an example with the projects that you guys are working on, and then literally just help plug it into some of these other projects that are producing content all the time and have the ability to fundraise even on their own. Maybe they're looking for more distribution, different types of production work, more consistent production work on the content that's coming through, and helping those smaller projects come to fruition much faster.
Thank you. Could you just help reassure that we've chosen the right path?
And like what you're saying, they have so much content, so we can just kind of use the same formatting than what we're creating in that space, in this space, and all these different spaces, and having it streamlined so it's easier to keep putting out content of the same high calibration with the nice text and like you said. So this is one of my biggest goals, is to be able to create this formatting so that we can just replicate it for every different channel.
Like our personal branding.
I love doing I love adding text to video. I can see how we can make these video make it from concise and clear, and adding the share, comment, subscribe, adding the titles to make it consumable on Facebook.
A term just came to mind: customizable cookie cutter. In other words, cookie cutter, a structured cookie cutter type format, but customizable.
It's a cookie cutter.
What's wrong? Are those bad words?
No. What is words? Yeah, no. I just are they American words? I don't know what they are.
Oh, you know what customizable is, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Cookie. Do you say cookie cutter?
A cookie cutter, yeah, where you just stamp a cookie. A cookie cutter.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
It makes the same thing over and over again. It's a structure.
Gosh. What would we call those? They've got a name. Oh. Not a cookie cutter.
I'm not great.
I was wondering why you guys were both looking at each other like I was crazy. Which I am. But.
It's that dialect thing again,
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm complete. I don't know. Does anybody else need to or want to share something?
We could look at the crowdfunding campaign for a moment if you want, Leela.
Yeah, so I have the opportunity the next 2 days to be in a professional studio with like a nice background and like good settings to kind of like record a short 2 or 3 minute video basically explaining, okay, this is the problem. The world is full of solutions, even though we don't see them. The world is full of amazing projects and initiatives, but we don't know where they are. And it's been a challenge to connect people with each other. And so from there, then we've been starting to work on a crowdfunding that basically would aim to crowdfund for the programming of the map and the matching system and the positive news media channel itself, so that then we have the platform to provide the other and future projects a really professional page where they can just present them in the best way possible. So we've been working on this text, and I'm really calling out for programmers and people who like know how to program or like we're into IT and web development, especially with React and Ionic. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with those languages, but Joel, I think you mentioned something that your team is focused on like programming and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the CoGov team is comprised of and is going to continue to grow to build developers. Essentially, our goal with CoGov is to have kind of the technology ability to build these governance-based, open, transparent kind of solutions so that they are retrofitted on the holochain, as opposed to continuing to build these systems kind of in a more centralized way by doing things in kind of the same paradigm, you know, technically. A lot of the technologies are the same, the languages are mostly the same, but the integration into the holochain is also really, really important, so that all of that data and information and informatics and all of that gets on the holochain moving forward, instead of some other private database under some service, you know, that's storing everything for us that they won't give us at the end of the day. So that's what we're aiming to do. And so as projects go through the process and find a need for development resources, that's something we can help either find developers or help develop a solution and go through the, you know, the process, you know, knowing your CFD and kind of what your goals are, and then figure out how to make that happen.
So you're saying that you have a few programmers that basically know how to program and are like fully aligned with like this thing, but they are doing it when it's connected to holochain and the holochain system itself with the data.
Yes, and building bridges. So like, for example, holochain doesn't do everything we need to do it. And I would venture to say that the reason we can't have a global reset is because we don't have a system to go onto. There's no other system yet until holochain's up and running. Then we're spinning up our currencies and our impact and influence, and it's autonomous, decentralized, and nobody can touch it without our permission. When that happens, then we have the reset ability to actually manage the flow currency in data, right? Lots and lots of data. So like all the videos, like moving Zoom into something new, so that all of our new videos have the same features, but they're all stored on the holochain, and all the texts that came through in the chat are on the holochain, so that when we're developing projects, I mean, it's open source. So that content can be reproduced and revisioned however somebody sees fit with the source material. So those are some of the ways that we think about how to develop the solutions and making sure they plug into the protocol as well.
Apparently there is a system already in place, and it's called the quantum financial system.
Yeah, I mean, we have that here in the U.S. And you know, it is connected, I think, to the global system, but it is still a fiat-based global currency system.
All I can do is tell you. I mean, obviously I don't know, so I'm not gonna say no. We only know what we're told, but no, the quantum financial system is going to be completely gold backed.
Completely what? Oh yeah.
Gold and asset backed.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've heard that one of the two guys, or the main teacher of the quantum parsec syntax grammar, one of them has died, but the other guy, Russell J. Gould, he's sitting on the quantum banking system using the actual the quantum parsec grammar as a factual framework. It's not associated to the BRICS Corporation though. By all accounts, this BRICS Corporation has somehow plagiarized the grammar, but it's something that will come to fruition as and when it needs to. For the time being, we're still in this kind of no man's zone between fact and fiction. So let's see how it all plays out.
I think we're going to get a slightly better version of fiction.
Yes.
Of the world.
Yes.
And the rest of the stuff that we manifest is going to be a really good story of like the truth and the love and the consciousness and what pervades this universe and the planet we live on.
Yeah, we've got to keep doing what we're doing. Yeah.
Leila, I just want to say about the developers. I think that this opportunity is really good with Vishal too, because he's already been building Unite Earth, which is kind of like what Joel said with like we need the actual system. So we have a call at 4. I think that you should really meet him because he's already built the tapping map for Unify, and as well working with seeds in this regenerative economic model, which just makes sense. Like maybe we can combine the karma points with the seeds that's already being built,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, there's like 100 million mosquitoes right here. So
Got that one.
Yeah, it was a big bastard.
So yeah, I think that's that's interesting. What I'm always just really wondering is how is this for example, there are all these people with the different maps, and there are people building all the different matching systems and all of that. And then basically what I'm looking for is really a blueprint on how those maps can collaborate so that then the data is not only for one person, but that Gaia Protection, for example, can also use the data and do things with it. And then Unify can use the data and do things with it. And that basically the data is collected in the community, but that each individual can then also use the data, So
That's HoloChain. That's Holo Map, HoloChain, Holo Web.
Yeah, that's where HoloChain comes into place. And we actually have 2 new white papers we're writing and publishing out of HoloChain, which are, I think, published out of holo.host, but will be posted on the HoloChain websites as well. The next one that we're doing has to do with this, building communities, regenerative communities, and the different protocols that are in place of how this relates to why would you want to do it on HoloChain. And a lot of those same reasons are about, well, communities are data, seeds are data, plants, medicines, food, actions, all these things are what tribes have always known as the value of a currency of kind of where people are on Earth at this point in time. And so that's how HoloChain sort of works in that kind of biomimicry way, taking all of this data. And the white papers are focused on how to use your use case of building a community or helping others dig into the data and build a solution on what's already available instead of having to create something new. And the simplest example is we've probably all seen 100 spreadsheets just in the last few months, maybe, with lists of organization on them. I think you probably have your own too, your own database of organizations that are being mapped, and all that data is replicated. Most of it's on Google right now in spreadsheets or in these really awkward database places. So the next phase I know we're going to hit some point later this year is building some of these adapters on HoloChain to go through give us your data, and we'll go through and scrape everything and get it over in the HoloChain so that these projects can organically be created. In the meantime, it is somewhat important for especially a protocol organization to learn how over time, maybe now it's not real enough for you guys to go into payment processing and transactions and media storage on HoloChain because the tool sets aren't quite there, and maybe you guys are underfunded to go build $1 million piece of technology. when someone else has already done it. So at HoloChain, we have a group at HoloChain, because I kind of work out of there as well as an advisor and member of the community. One of our projects that we have going on is finding these platforms that do these things really well. Twitter is an example. Twitter does what they do really well. Who wants to build another Twitter, but wouldn't it be nice to have a Twitter? Well, if we can get Twitter to get on the HoloChain, we just won. It doesn't matter what they do. You just got all of that energy and all of those transactions on the HoloChain. And by the very agreement of that happening, we have access to that information in totally different ways than we did before. Same with like a Zoom. It'd be hard to build a Zoom to where we can record a session, have all of the chats come out on a recorded video later, basically have a mini production ready to go as long as the facilitation was nice and smooth. Not a lot of tools can do that. That's expensive to build. But if we had that content, if we had a basic tool that could put that on HoloChain, then eventually the developers will come along and start building these things, especially if it's part of a project that can bring in the funds and the energy. And so, yeah, just staying connected on what projects you guys are working on, and if there's a use case that's really specific, like to how you guys envision like this model working out and how it's relative to HoloChain, that's something we can write a white paper for. And the reason we do that is because now developers know what to do. Now entrepreneurs know what they can see, that relative vision of like, oh, now I see why it behooves us to do it in this way. Because immediately everyone else is benefiting as soon as we do that, which is different than a typical startup where we have to get traction, we have to get attention, we've got to build our equity, whatever the different metrics are. And then someone's going to pay attention to us, and they still don't have access to everything that we would want to give them, because we don't even have access to everything without hitting a bunch of buttons.
You work with Nico?
Nico is on, yeah, he's helping out with CoGov and Protocol.love.
Simon.
Huh?
Simon, the founder of Wico. He's also with you guys?
Oh,
No, I asked if you work with Nico.
Yeah.
Nico we live with Nico in Rotterdam at the Synergy Hub. Rob and I.
Wico.
Yeah, he's the brain behind the CoGov and Protocol.love kind of tooling of how to connect that into HoloChain. And he's the original developer of HoloChain.
Yeah, on that note, like I'd love to see a video or help create a video about HoloChain that actually does a good job of describing it in layman's terms for anyone to understand it, because the only videos I've been able to find so far with Nico's brilliant, but everything he says goes right over my head. And I think probably many, most others as well. So like, if we can get, if that's, whenever that's, you know, a good time to do that, Joel, I'd be happy to work on.
If you guys are open to doing a video for HoloChain, I've got a meeting with them Thursday, and I'll ask the group. Like,
yeah.
Hey, you know, we have this group, and we seem to know how to communicate. And what our challenge is figuring out how to better communicate to the global community about the fundamentals of HoloChain, and to engage developers and entrepreneurs and companies of seeing this new reality. And we do know that we suck at communicating, except for maybe to some really technical developers.
Right. Yeah.
I'd love
Well,
to do that too, like on the video production side, of like writing putting the story together, and like what, like the visuals, and like just mapping out what the visuals would be with the story.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
also, really, the first time I really heard about it was with Brett, and I feel that he explains it pretty good with when me and Leela interviewed him. We can even maybe take a piece from that, of like he was explaining the neurons and like the little like fractal pieces of how everything like fits together.
Was he describing HoloChain or specifically HoloMap?
Just a holon in general, like the idea of a holon, because
Right,
could even
okay.
start with like what is a holon, and then have like beautiful text over it, like how Gaia TV has.
Yeah, I mean, really in the simplest terms possible, because most people are not at all familiar with what a holon is exactly. So, you know, taking this right down to layman level and doing a very, very simplistic explanation of HoloChain, HoloMap, HoloWeb, because yeah, if you're going to start opening it up to people and getting developers on board, yeah, unless they're the very technical ones, like Nico's language is super super.
That's what we're hoping to do through
yeah.
CoGov, is to help bring at least a level of simple language. Like, people get co-governance, or they get governance, or they get open protocols. What they don't get is, how does it actually work technically? Like, they get how it works in this intelligent system and with the land and with the cosmos. But relating that to technology, not everyone has the language, you know, like you were speaking about earlier. And I think if you guys are interested, I'll definitely talk to them about that on Thursday. I'll just tell them, I'm like, listen, guys, we've got all these white papers. We've got 2 more coming. Nobody has any freaking clue that you're coming. Nobody knows you're coming.
Yeah.
Except for a small group of people. So how do we change that really quickly and develop some story so that an energy company, a co-governance company, the Fruition Collective, the so-and-sos can have, and Brett, talking about hold-ons, describe the essence of just making a simple change. Just like you don't have
say
to
they're coming.
Chain developer, just taking all of that language away and you guys, I'm sure, are really good with words, and figuring out what keywords would be able to use, and then put that in a video, and that's only going to increase, I think, the support system for things like CoGov and Protocol.love, and stewarding this economy for all of these projects, so that you guys have something to connect to that has value that you can check out with on your wallet. On your phone.
Right. Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. It's just really taking from like the problem, like being like super basic 8-step story of like where we were, the problem, and then the solution, and like breaking it down into like you said, layman's terms, Rob, and just using the stories of the people who are speaking or who are creating it, and then also just putting that into the simple, shortest story that we can to explain it.
Pictures,
You say that Holochain is coming, and I've been wondering about that. When is it going to be here?
Officially, it's going to be here Q3, Q4. Unofficially, maybe sometime this summer.
Wow.
Okay, cool. What about Junto? Do you know?
Junto's, I think Junto's probably still a few months away. They're waiting on a couple of more pieces and some more development resources to finish out, but I think they'll probably be sometime in the summer too. At least in their beta.
Well, I think they're actually in beta now, but not on Holochain.
Right. Yeah, they're beta on Holochain.
All right, cool. Well, it's after 2 o'clock. Anybody else got anything else? You've been on this call for a couple hours now.
That we can.
Was just going to say to Leela, if you didn't get my message on the chat, just contact me on Facebook after this, and we'll arrange a time to jump on a call with you about, your website and the language. And we'll get that. Yeah, awesome.
And I want to say one more thing too to Joel. I really wish you'd have been with us from the start, so you were a part of this team full on. Maybe you can work your way in there. We'd love to have you. Well, I know, but you know what I'm saying. You're more than welcome to come to all the meetings and be a core member.
Yeah, absolutely. Seconded to that. Yeah, thank you so much, Joel, for beautiful wisdom. Okay.
All right. Have a good day, and we'll see y'all Thursday, huh?
Blessings to all, each and everyone. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Much love.
Bye.
Ciao.